All right. Welcome to another Data Hurdles. I'm Chris Detzel and
I'm Michael Berg. How you doing, Chris?
I'm good. Michael, how are you?
I'm doing really well today. This is the first vacation I've been on in a while. My anniversary. Taking a few days off on the Cape, which is great. How about yourself?
Hey, man, I appreciate you being here on your vacation, but duty calls. Look, just running and doing the same things I do all day, every day. And it's hot in Dallas, but that's about it.
How are you managing the heat right now? What is it, like 100 degrees there yet? Have we crossed 100?
Yeah, it's high 90s. And you just go run in the mornings and you don't run in the afternoons at all. That's what we've been doing.
It's crazy.
And you just run less. That's the secret. Hey, man, we have special guest Somya Kapoor. She's the CEO and co-founder of The Loops. Somya, how are you?
Good. Hi. I didn't know Mike was taking this call on a vacation, so I'm really impressed. That's really great, Mike. Really nice to be here.
He's dedicated, Somya.
I think we all, yeah, no, absolutely. He's laying his mark of being a co-founder and a CP of six companies.
Yeah,
I mean, that's really,
it's more the fear of missing a deadline for Chris. He's that good at chasing people to show up. So.
He said, he goes, um, he sent me a note yesterday because I have his calendar and I said, hey, we've got this great interview. All right, great. Book it. I booked it. And he goes, so when I booked it, he goes, oh, I'm on vacation. I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to do this myself. He goes, oh, I can make it. FOMO a little bit. So, Simon, tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey through the years, and what inspired you to co-found this company called The Loops.
yeah, I've been part of big companies. I was at SAP in leadership roles, then at ServiceNow in multitude of leadership roles, transitioning from a big company. Startups just fell into my lap, where my previous startup, I was the first employee, and then this co-founder became part of the founding team, and we were doing
Yeah.
conversational AI bots then, right? Didn't know that 30th November 2022 was going to hit the world storm and change everything in our landscape, but pretty much realize that chatbots are good. There is a need for it, but they can only get to 10 to 20% deflection. But there's a lot more that needs to happen from an internal process alignment. Compared coming from ServiceNow was very close to my heart. That needs to really bring people, process, and data all within the loop. Hence the name the loops. And that kind of led to pretty much the journey of starting the loops.
So interesting. Mike and I know this guy that was product leader over at ServiceNow that built the communities platform at ServiceNow.
Oh,
Okay.
nice. I still have my relationship with ServiceNow. It's like family, right? You go
Yeah.
back. I tell people to joke, and now it's on a podcast getting out there. I met Bill McDermott at one of the events, and I said, "Hey, Bill, how's it going?" He's like, "Hey, Tommy, I know you." I'm like, "Don't." That's great. You're saying that you know me from SAP, and but I said, now you will know me because I tell everybody I left SAP and I went to ServiceNow, and then Bill McDermott followed me there.
He followed you.
So yeah.
I love that. So now there's probably a lot of challenges when building a startup. So how did you navigate some of those challenges of starting the loops during the pandemic and what kept you motivated?
Oh my God. So we really started pitching in the first week of March 2020,
Oh
right?
man.
Oh my gosh.
Uh,
That's exactly when it started.
oh my God. Two pitches we did to the VC, and in
Uh-huh.
the second week, everything shut down. Like, oh, there was silence. And we were like, oh, what happened here? We were pretty much a slideware at that point. We pinged people for 4 weeks, dead silent, right? So we could ping most of the VCs were at that point taking care of their portfolio companies, figuring out the world is going to fall apart. What are we going to do? Blah, blah, blah. And while that was going on, we pivoted and we said, okay, you know what? Let's give it another 6 months. Let's test the water. There is nothing to lose. We can always go back. We came out of a startup. We wanted to test this idea out. And we started talking to customers. We spoke roughly around to 50 to 75 customers in the enterprise space, and nobody said no. They said, huh, that's an idea. I'm
Yeah.
going to Salesforce upgrade, Zendesk upgrade, whatever. That's
Mhm.
my priority. Or I'm going through this world because I think that April, May of 2020 was a moment where nobody knew what was happening and everybody was just figuring it out. The top management was figuring out, whereas the VPs were just like waiting to be given a direction. So it was a perfect time to talk to customers and get validation. And by July, we had 4 customers testing our product out. And you know what? floodgates open. We went and we pitched and we took the first person, Dell Ventures. Dell Technology Ventures came in and said, we'll give you a term sheet. And we're like, okay, well, let's profile.
I have
That's
so many
incredible.
questions. That is incredible. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just going to say, I can't imagine starting a startup at the beginning of COVID. It's already, and this is my first time working in this scale, right? 0 to 1. It's already crazy, right? When you look at the odds and what you're up against and what you have to sell and who you have to sell to. Starting that during COVID, I would have totally had a fork in the road. Should we continue? Is it worth it? Your heart must have totally sank when COVID kicked in.
It did. But I think it was also, we were at a point saying, okay, you know what, we can always go back to a corporate job. Do we want that at this point? Or, you know what, just give it 6 months. We can take a 6 months and see where this lands. And if it doesn't, then let's take it forward. And I think that is the journey of a startup, that you always look at, okay, well, what am I 6 months out? Or some people even told me, what am I next month out? And you keep it, you survive every day to live another day. I think that's the personality that survive within a startup. If you feel like you have a plan for 5 years, guess what? Gonna change.
That's right.
It's never what you started with. Life does come along, and I think the last 4 years have taught me a lot. Not that it didn't in my previous one, but leading from the forefront just changes. I think startup just changes people. I read a book that said, as founders, you will be changed, and I feel like it. If I look at my journey in the startup and the corporate world 7 years ago, I'm a changed person. I'm more calmer and patient.
Absolutely. They've said that people who live through adversity or really challenging events in their life, and I think a startup really is one of these, has a much better perspective of what does failure really feel like and what does success feel like. And I think when you understand that ground truth, you have so much more patience for the ups and downs in a larger company, or as you get growth and acceleration, you can withstand a lot more in your personality, in your career, right? I mean, there is just so much that you're dealing with when you first start off. And it's really like rolling the dice in many ways. And somehow you beat the odds.
It is so true, Mike, over there. I think people don't realize they undermine the experience, and a lot of people give up also midway. I wouldn't deny that. I think the people who perceive, they see the fruits of it. Because like you're saying, you're fighting for that additional 10% every day. There's 90% of the things that fail and only 10% work most of the time, early stage startup. And if you can make it, that's why they say the best startups are started during the downfall, is of the very fact.
Totally.
You go through so much to keep you on the toes to move it to the next level.
Yeah, Elon Musk had a quote that kind of stuck with me, and take him for what he is as a leader. But he said that running a startup is like chewing glass and staring into the abyss. And it's sadly accurate, right? You are taking on so much pain and you're fighting through this shame when things are bad and complete highs when things are up, and you have no idea where you're going, right? Or if it's going to work. Just these little hints of light that you're moving forward in the right direction, right?
It is
One.
so true. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. Please continue.
Hey, that's it. Go for it. Yeah.
No, I just surprising you say that. I have this book on my desk.
Zero to IPO.
I'm Zero to IPO from Frederick. He does have that quote in there. Doing a startup is like chewing glass, and you have to fall in love with your blood. That's pretty it, right? And whenever I'm in those times, I just go back and read on that book, and it's such a simple read. He's not given me anything to market his book, but that's my reality ground that I go back to when I need sanity. Oh shit, moments are happening. You go read, and they're like, you know what? The CEO of ServiceNow went through it too, so it's fine. Freddie went through it. Todd from Okta went through it, so this is not bad. I think we'll get out of it. So it is true. It is falling in love with your blood every day, and the cut and the wound. It makes you stronger. I feel like you grow
Absolutely.
so much that you could say, "Oh wow, this was possible. I made it. Oh wow, okay."
Yeah, there's got to be some kind of awesomeness whenever you go to that first customer, like you said, in July. It really didn't take you all that long going from March to July. It might have seemed like a long time, but it seems pretty quick to me, and that's got to really get people excited, I'm sure.
I think the experience that adds to it, Chris, as well, it would have been different. Building an enterprise software always helped having some relationships, and being at
Yeah.
ServiceNow and SAP, I did have not necessarily so much with the support leader or the CX leaders, but I knew the CIOs to have conversations, to get introduction, to get there. So I think in a way, I always think back and I'm like, why didn't I jump in the startup land? Because this is my calling. I feel
Yeah.
at home here. No matter how chaotic, how crazy life is, how many dark circles I might be getting, which I probably need some solution for, or the wrinkles, or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
Where I don't have a weekend to myself where my mind is constantly thinking about the next problem to solve. How much rosy it sounds, it is consuming, but I feel like I was designed for this. This is where I feel comfortable. But I think having that corporate experience, especially when you're doing enterprise B2B SaaS solution, really adds in with the relationships that you build to go and have some vetting ground before even you get your first customer that's the right customer for you. So yeah, that helps.
Yeah, for sure. And Samya, let's get into what you guys do because I'm really excited about diving into that because my mind's going everywhere around what you guys do because it's really fun. So tell me a little bit about the pivotal moment or problem that was led to the creation of the loops first.
Yeah, so the biggest problem was that everybody was deploying AI in PX or support, however you want to, call that market segment. And it was pretty much a chatbot standpoint, right? Like
Yeah.
I said, we're already offering AI at the deflection level. But deflection was not truly offering the ultimate experience. When I come to support, instead of getting a knowledge article that I have to search, a bot is responding, and that's annoying. Not right now. Now everybody has to get conversational. But in 2017, it was freaking annoying, right?
Yes.
But it was a moment of time where I felt was like, I stopped going to banks. I don't go to a bank, but if I have an issue, I just log into a site and just chat with a chatbot. Well, I've got another thing going. So the world is going to change in those. But before you could make that happen, there is a lot more. You will get 20% deflection. But what about the 80% of the other issues? Still, I'm waiting for an agent. Still, when I'm talking to an agent or message an agent, they're saying, what is your problem? And you're like, dude, I'm using your product. I'm within your product. You should freaking know what I'm doing, right? It's not like it's rocket science. You guys have all the events, right? So it led to the idea that the operation element is super critical in leveraging AI within CX. And what is that operational element is alignment of people, process, and data. They have disconnected systems in the back end. Support teams are working with multiple screens on at times for agent perspective. Managers are dumping data and looking at how many volumes of tickets are going as opposed to what are my customers saying in that data? Oh my God, what product things happen failed? Why is the consistency behaviors of these customers always asking these kind of questions, right? So understanding behavior traits will help drive the post sales a lot more towards business outcomes as opposed to I solved 5,000 tickets in 5 decades. I think that's not the experience that everybody. So that led to the genesis of loops of how do you help support leaders drive efficiency with the back end processes? It was a lot of education required to this market because support leaders were living in a very operational mindset. They didn't understand that they could get a lot of smart metrics and help their agents. Not only that, drive productivity to help success team, product teams get real time insight. Like I can't tell you how many times I get into meetings and they're like, oh, how many users do you have in Zendesk? We have 130. But how many support agents? 30. What are the other 100 people doing in your kitchen sink then? Because everybody wants to know what's going on with the customer after they sold the product. And guess what? It's a ticket. But nobody minds that data and contextualizes it and shares it. So that is what the loops pretty much does. We extract a lot of behavior signals from your support interactions, contextualize that with other sources like your CRM, bug tracking to help you offer personalized experience. And then if you give us usage, we also bring preventative support in product as well. Most of the customers are at the first and the second journey, very few at the preventative, but you got to have a baseline available where operationalizing this content will help you drive better experiences for your customers. A co-pilot that's just not about case summarization which
Yep.
is everybody in market is talking about support, but really helping your agent resolve complex issues faster, giving guidance to managers on predictive escalations happening at frontline, predictive CSAT, auto QA to really drive efficiency, and then share these with product. Oh, by the way, here's the impact and bugs and product feature requests. And here's the sentiment. This customer is going to churn. Actually, one of my customer with Loops, actually, the VP of support, and I can give his name, Tricentis Gennady, has taken 2% of retention on his head as a
Wow.
support leader, which
That's
pretty
amazing.
much equates to millions of dollars. I'm not going to give the number up, but
A
millions
lot
of
of
dollars
money.
cost savings. So
Yeah.
how can support leaders go away from the cost centers to value drivers is what the Loops is going. I know, Prit, you asked a very small question and I just rambled over, but
Now
that's
you've
why
got me thinking of a lot of other questions I'm going to ask you right now because being in the community space at a cybersecurity company and even at the company I'm at today for a long time, one of the biggest opportunities from a community standpoint is support deflection, right? Proving that out is always difficult. It's very difficult for me to say, hey, I deflect X number of percentages of cases. If you can't connect the business systems together and you can't get what you're talking about, some of the data around AI has a huge opportunity, I think, today in what you're doing today, and not just support. As I think about online communities, as I think about customer success, think about the product and support. Because if you look at the engineers, they're the one looking at support. They're saying, oh, I've got to go solve this problem for support. And so connecting all that data together, getting those insights that you're talking about, because on all three of those things, the CS people are having conversations and QBRs. I have community of 3,500 users right today of that I talk to on a consistent basis with, and they're giving all kinds of information, not just on the online community, but on our live webinars and everything else. You got support doing all of these things as well. And so connecting that and really getting this true 360 view of what the customer is thinking and doing, and maybe even getting sentiment analysis and things like that. And then thinking that the higher level is, okay, we know that, for example, if there's going to be churn within an account, we can now predict that this customer could churn. So how do we go after that with the data that we have? Or two is when you look at expansion opportunities, whether it's fine, retention is good. Obviously, you want to retain, but then maybe there's an upsell or a cross sell opportunity that you can identify from all this data that you're thinking about. That's the things that I want to start going after and being a part of. And I think it feels like you guys have some huge opportunities in doing some of that. Would that be correct, or am I
it is,
wait
it is,
wait
it
thinking way?
is true. It is true. See, that's why we built the vision 4 years ago. I think GPT has expedited it a little bit more, where people have started breaking silos. I think the last decade, companies spent building silos, right? Marketing, sales, customer
Yeah.
success, support, education. And now with this AI revolution, we'll start seeing silos break down and tools or solutions coming together, stitching. And we want to be in this post-sales journey of stitching that journey to help every personnel within an organization get insight, actionable insight that they can
Yeah.
to help make customers drive more value out of whatever offering that they're giving.
So quick question for you, Sam. I love this, by the way. I think that
Me too.
the orchestration layer is probably one of the deepest areas that could use improvement across any enterprise business, right? We see it in the master data management space. We clearly see it in CX, marketing. Everybody has their own funnel, their own demographics, their own KPIs. But when you start to orchestrate everything, and I know because I worked in this for a while, it can become incredibly powerful, right? More powerful than I would say almost any other feature of your business. However, to really utilize that information and that knowledge, you have to know what questions to ask. How do leaders with your product ask the right questions to extract that value, even if they have the orchestration?
Asking the right answers, right? I think it also it helps in training, understanding. So the way we do is offer recommendation, right? If you've asked a question to the system, even if it's not the right answer or we didn't give you the right output, right? We will make you more recommendations along with that. And that kind of tells me, oh, you didn't frame the question if you picked the recommended answer. But what you typically do is, for instance, I'm going to a chatbot scenario simply saying that for a password, I have an issue. My password is not working. But for which application? Which kind of a system? If I can ask those guided questions associated with an intent and entity, then you're able to help rather than just saying, oh, I do not understand. Do you like my knowledge article or not? Kind of assistant. So these are the areas where learning from historical data that you might be having to guide the agent and some of the could be right, wrong on day one, but giving them the right levers so you're training them on the job now to ask the right question. The next time I will ask, oh, I have a password refill with my Okta, right? Then I know I got my right answer because now I knew that I didn't have to make 3 clicks. I just needed to make the first one to make that. So you're inherently imposing as a recommendation, as a behavior trait change in organizations and people. Same way we have something called an auto QA in the system, where traditionally in the past, managers used to QA agents and they could QA 20% of the tickets because it was just impossible. They spent 8 hours a week or they were or people were hired to do that. I'm so sorry. But now what happens is with auto QA, you can do 100%, but then you can understand the procedures and say, okay, I'm only going to pick up out of all the system that's done it. I can only pick up 20% to see how it's doing it and then see how I can improve it further. Adding that feedback, learning, and the behavior changes in your software or in this data that you're representing will help drive the change that you want to ask, because we all will not ask the same question and the right question to the data. This is ongoing. We've been analytics. We've used Tableaus and clickers in our past. And guess what? They give you a dashboard and you're like, wait, but that was not what it meant to be. But at least when 4 weeks, they give you a dashboard, right? And then you go live with them another 3 weeks and then another 4 weeks because they don't know the questions that you have in your head to get the dashboard. And then by the time you get it finally defined, you know what? Your board is asking a different question that dashboard cannot answer.
That's when you have to have a data guru that knows all things Tableau.
Yeah.
We've gone through these cycles, right? I built Tableau killers in my past life. It's understanding and training the system. And I feel like conversational interfaces are pretty much going to be doing that. We're going to get into we're going to be talking. We're going to be in that Iron Man movie where you're talking to Jarvis rather than saying, okay, Jarvis, show me this. Jarvis, show me that. What about this? Okay, maybe not that. So maybe first or second or the third time Jarvis will be wrong, but fifth time they're going to get it. Yeah.
That's pretty
How do you think with looking in versus looking outward, right? I think this is also one of the big challenges in this space is even if you've identified, let's call it the perfect happy path, and you have some causal inference, you're like, I'm feeling pretty confident why users are getting to value this way. The world is constantly changing. Your user base is constantly changing. How do you take in that outside information and bring it into those assumptions or vice versa, right? And make sure that you're not creating or making decisions based off of biases, right? Which is so common. I don't know if there's a good solution for this, but even within the orchestration layers, there's so many challenges with perception of what data is really telling you.
No, it is true. So I'll give you one example, very tangible, right? We started with sentiment, and sentiment, the way we present it today, we extract 37 signals from your support interaction. Just to begin there, you can keep adding more and more data, but support could be email, conversation, ticket. Then maybe you can bring some other CSM's email data. It's up to you how you want to do that. But let's start with support data itself. When we presented it to the customers, we showed them 37 signals. Look at the aggregated level, right? Today you got frustration really high and it was on a performance issue, blah, 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 blah. And they were like, oh, okay. So they started looking at it and then you have to train them on how to drill down on that data set and stuff like that. And we were like, oh my God, we're going to spend so much time training on a dashboard because every customer wanted to view it in a different form. And then we said, okay, you know what? And this happened after 2022, not before that. How do we make it conversational? Can we make it conversational? So let's lift them out and say, okay, let me see what's my score for sentiment today, right? Maybe it's 72. Okay, how much is this of a bad sentiment? Okay, maybe 20 tickets are bad sentiment. Okay, within the bad sentiment, what is the sentiment that's trending the most? Frustration is trending most on performance-related issues. But when you're now giving this content in a conversational bag, we found that the customers were engaging a lot more. The usage of our dashboard were going a lot more up. Because as humans, we're very conversational and consuming content. And that's why you see I call them Gen Zs in Starbucks line, like standing and going on their mobile phones and interacting with anybody because that's what they're used to. Request response. As challenging as enterprise data is going to be, adding a conversational layer on top of that, either a transactional data or a analytical system, either or how you want to choose it, is definitely going to drive much more adoption. Then comes the problem of data silos and how you bring what kind of data do you start bringing it together so it's not becoming overwhelming to ask questions. So that's where we started with support data today and providing those insights. But now we're adding more and more data sets to it because now we know for support, this is what you traditionally ask for. These are the common behaviors. We're 65% common across horizontals and verticals. But then now you're moving to success, it's going to look like this. And then you're moving to product, it's going to look like this. It's a journey. I think there's still a lot of hurdles, Mike, like you're highlighting. But like I said, it's an onion peeling every day.
One of my friends said it best a few years ago. He was explaining to me the data ecosystem in his eyes, and he said, support is your nervous system, right? It is, you've got all these different pieces to your product, and they really mimic the body. You've got your lungs and your heart, they're producing. And anytime you get signal, you need to be listening and responding, reacting to that, and changing your behavior as an organization. I love it.
People don't do that. We had one customer, and it was a Series B company at that point. Now they've probably gone ahead, where the CEO got on a call and he was having a call with Snowflake, and they said, we're not going to do a webinar. And Snowflake, the customer said, I'm not going to do a webinar because I put in a request 6 months ago and it didn't get resolved. He looked at his marketing, they didn't know about it. He looked at his sales, they didn't know about it. He checked with his engineering head, they didn't know about it. It was actually the support leader knew that they put in a feature request 6 months ago that was critical for their renewal.
Yeah. Yep. And it's so common. I think every business runs into these, right?
Oh, tons. Because we just treat support as a cost center. So resolving issues is faster. And you can't blame the people in that organization because they're firefighting. So they don't have time to sit and say, let me be strategic and share with you the data. That is it's changing. They're getting much more data driven, but they're still in this firefighting mode. But that's a gold mine, like you were saying. It is a nervous system. It is a gold mine of data that tells you a pulse of a customer that is going to churn if you do.
That's right.
And for every one of those customers, there's probably 50 that are churning behind the scenes that you don't have the signal, right? At least.
Yeah. Silent the folks that stop putting the tickets. But if you put that data on a trend line, which is what we do from a sentiment extraction, you will start seeing a pattern. And that pattern is so important. That pattern is important to understand churn. That pattern is important to understand your product feature requests. How many times we get into the meeting where you're having with engineering and they like to do whatever they want. They look at a bug list and a feature request and guess what happens? They like to fix things that can be done their way. But now it's so impact in all of those lists that all the tickets that you've escalated to them and saying, you know what, if you don't pick this bucket, this is going to cost us $3 million because you've attached the revenue of every customer and the renewal coming with it. It changes the dynamics of the conversation.
Look, I'm going to tell you a quick story, you guys, because I think it's so relevant here. And sorry for interjecting. In my own career, I had this product that I was absolutely obsessed with, LastPass. It was a password manager 10 years ago. I had been talking on their community forum, providing tickets when I saw bugs. But this was like the next big thing in password management. The CEO hopped on and responded multiple times to my feature requests and ideas and concerns on their community forum, so much so that I left my own company to go work for them. And really, that was the driving factor. I was just so impressed at how strong the community was and how quickly they reacted to things. And it felt like they were working for me, right? And it was that strong of a relationship where I said, this company has something special. I found out they had been acquired by a larger company in the Boston area and just took the leap to go work with them. It drives so much more than people realize. And to me, I think that, and as an AI guy, even, I think that we've lost touch of how strong and how important it is to be involved with your community. And so many companies slap a layer of AI on. I think that's the new term, is adding a thin layer of AI to anything when they really have no idea of what measurable giving up by not having that human, not having that analysis, and not reacting to change and requests to change from their customers.
It's a hard thing, right? People don't like solving hard problems. But now it's possible because you can mine unstructured data with a lot of precision. There's tons of people talking about AI, like it's a thin layer of AI. I love how you positioned it. But people with deep expertise will understand it's just not throwing AI to every problem. I come across every co-pilot company every day, like everybody's rebranded co-pilot. But it's not it's not just case summarization. It's the deep depth of understanding of how to guide and change a human behavior to come along to make those changes. So I think there's going to be a lot of aspects that play in with usability and all those elements to consume that. But I do agree with you. Community, support, all these are huge data sets that give you a lot of pulse about your customer that just go unmined. And then you invest a lot in sales and marketing, and then you're like, oh my God, what's going on with my customers? Why are they churning so much?
Absolutely.
So I'm going to skip a bunch of these questions from a timing standpoint, but let's go to some trends and the future of some of this stuff. What are some of the current trends and challenges in the CX industry that you think will shape the future?
So I'll start with what is a trend. Trend is AI will definitely transform CX completely. If you're not on board with that, on that train, you're going to miss out massively. I think that's true. Is AI going to solve world hunger in CX? No. But if you're not getting on that train, you will not understand the gaps within your data, people, and process. So you have to jump on that bandwagon to experiment. People who have seen areas of improvement and whatever, better community data, better knowledge management, better training material for your agent, better alignment internally with your processes, with other teams, you will understand that much, much better than anything else. The third thing is, sorry, I was on the trend side, right? It is definitely going to remove the silos between organizations. I fundamentally believe success and support are going to get a lot more closer than anything, or success is going to move on into sales, but support is going to be taking a lot more leading role in articulating not only the number of tickets that got deflected, but you know what? Here's the gold mine of data, and let me share with you content in my community, in my tickets, in my emails to help you make better decisions in product as well as in successful post-sales usability and stickiness.
So do you think that from a support leader standpoint, some of that has to change? Because right now, when you look at some of these leaders in support, they're very good at what they do, right? But they're always fighting fires, like you said, right? They're not used to showing the business outcomes of what support can bring. They're just, here's the tickets deflected. But it's just from my experience, as you were talking, to be able to transform that, feels like you need some kind of business type leader that maybe drives support. Maybe it's a customer success or a chief customer officer or somebody like that can talk about those business outcomes and some of those things that you're talking about. I don't know. What are your thoughts
It
on
is
that?
happening. Yes, absolutely. I think support leaders need to move away from operational metrics, metrics, business value metrics. I'm seeing a lot of customer success leaders taking up support roles right now as support is becoming very important at the CEO level. There are few discussions. I remember having a conversation with a big public company support team where they came back and they said, my CEO is saying we need to change our stack, right? Traditionally, we built a tech stack that did deflection of tickets, right? But what we realized was that was not leading to better customer experience. They were getting these silent customers that were just disappearing. They went on silent and they never interacted with us, right? Now he's saying build a tech stack where it's okay to interact. That's okay. You could be screaming the loudest, you had a bad experience, but at least you care. So at least I know there is a pain for me to resolve. So build a tech stack that increases the interaction, the volume of your tickets, which is absolutely like a no in support, right? But you are able to drive efficiency of your business processes in the back end to manage that kind of load. Don't stop your customers from interacting with you, good or bad. Give them channels to interact at every level with you so they can come out and then be able to drive operational efficiency. So these are some of the pivots that are happening where traditionally we would chatbot for deflection, but now people are saying, no, give co-pilots to your agent, but let them interact. Open as many channels, communities, real-time chats, live chats, emails, open the floodgate. Let them give you the bad news because that is good for us still. We know what was the pain that they were feeling, as opposed to they come in the search, they don't get anything, and you're trying to hide the button escape agent or 000, right? To get there. So that's what is happening in the market right now from a trend analysis. From a challenge, which you articulated, Chris, itself, what leaders need to up-level themselves, need to understand AI is not to solve world hunger. It's not going to be 100% accurate. You know what? Weather forecast is not 100% accurate. It's 95%.
That's true.
After what, 20 years of remining that data? But it at least tells me that I need to take an umbrella if it's going to be raining to protect myself, right? So you got to get used to that thing saying, I am being warned. How I want to react to it, exactly, that's what the data and these AI insights are going to give. And then it's also thinking about that it's not taking jobs away. It will take some. I would be sugarcoating this if I said that. But if it is, how do I up-level? Because what is going to happen is, even if I offer bots, and one of my customers, she said, I'm getting rid of my flying agent now. They're going to be replaced by me. Then I was like, oh my God, you can't make that statement. She's like, no, but I'm making that statement because then I need to up-level my team to manage those bots. So even though the opportunities and support are getting taken away, there are new ones getting created. Very similar to the cloud migration, right? Where your on-premise data centers were getting replaced with cloud. And then you all of a sudden needed DevOps roles. On-premise guys didn't know that. You had to up-level your skill set, how to deploy on AWS, how to learn that continuous cycle of doing it. You're going to go through the same revolution and evolution in CX space, and people need to embrace it. Because if you don't, you're missing out. There's going to be a better company, better operational efficiency, better way of addressing that customer need and experience, and you'll still be stuck in adding headcount and reducing your ticket volume, which doesn't get you there.
I think that, what your company and what you're trying to do is solving a huge problem. And, for a long time, in my opinion, support has been one of the hardest problems to solve, right? Because a lot of times in my experience, these companies hire support agents that are right out of college or whatever. They don't know the product inside and out, but there's a lot of time and effort training them, getting them up to speed, understanding the product more. And when you look at these enterprise software companies, like the ones we've worked at, these problems aren't easy, right? And then, so it's ripe for innovation, ripe for changing, ripe for a lot of things. And you guys are right on the forefront of it. And that's exciting. And one of the things I want to change it up a little bit and talk a little bit about maybe your leadership and management, just a couple of questions around that. And then we can end it. But so I've seen on your LinkedIn and your company profile that you have a lot of high percentage of women leaders at the Loops. One, is that done on purpose? And how do you foster an inclusive and an innovative culture within your company?
Just it goes with my background. I want to share a little bit. I'm going to share some personal story here.
Please do.
I am born Indian. So I come from a Hindu parent, but I was born in Middle East in a Muslim land. And then in my youth, I came to United States in a Christian world. This is how I like to frame it. And each of those arenas of being in different areas taught me so much about humans and diversity and different cultures and how learning from every culture can give you a different perspective in life. And the same thing I like to bring into my team as well by having diverse people part of the management team just opens possibilities and opportunities and people striving and giving creative ideas that you can't get when all like-minded put together. It's great to have to work with your friends of like-minded people. It's not about like-minded people. It's about diverse people with like-minded mission of what they want to do. And that's what I tried on my management team because with diversity, you get creativity. You hear problems that a woman might be solving or someone from an LGBT community will be dealing with, but they're all in it here to make this happen to perceive to get to next level because something that they did in life got them there, right? So yeah, I have a diverse team. I like to keep it that way, and I learn to learn from different perspectives and different people and different backgrounds.
I love that. Lastly, so what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs, especially women, who want to enter into the tech industry?
Oh my God. Women, as women, we think a lot and we
Yeah.
care. It's, you say hormones attached to it or whatever it is. It's the being that we are. And we think a lot because we have so many other responsibilities. So people wanting to jump onto it, I would say, don't they? You know what? Just jump into it.
Yeah.
Totally.
This is what truly is your calling. Rest everything you can make it happen. I'm a mother of a 9-year-old daughter. And before I got into a startup, I was like, oh my God, it does consume you. I wouldn't deny it. But when I see her sitting in a conference room behaving like me, I'm like, okay, you know what? She's going to be fine. Doing, oh, can you get me that? Wait, in order to finish this homework, I need to get these things done. So there is a 5 action item. Wait, let me go think to this point. Like when your mom said the apple doesn't fall away from the tree, that when you see, then you're like, okay, you know what? She's going to be fine. But we do give up a lot in this journey. And that's okay, because in the end, what you are striving is opening doors for yet another younger generation to get into this space and not be scared. So that's what I would say to women or to anybody wanting to get into
Yeah.
entrepreneurship. It's not cut out for everybody. Now, Mike, I was discussing with you and Chris with you as well. Only 5% or 7% of the people are that crazy to get into the startup world. But if you have an idea and you feel really strong about it, don't be scared. Jump into it. You'll learn to swim.
Love
I
that.
think that was the best summary we've had to date.
For
This
sure.
is incredible. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your vision. I'm definitely going to check out the Loops after this as a customer potentially. I think
Oh,
there's a
awesome,
lot
Mike.
here. So we really appreciate you having on the show. I'm sure we're going to invite you back in the future. And thank you again for joining. I'm Michael Burke.
And I'm Chris Detzel.
Don't forget to rate and review us. And thank you for tuning in.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.